Oh, yeah, that would be nice.
At what time?
9:01,
9:01, roll call. Ms. Campbell?
here.
Mr. Kress?
Here.
Ms. Luttrell?
Here.
Mr. Zeitges?
Present.
Cy Michaels? And as you may know, Cy's not here because she's got a stomach bug of some sort.
Yeah, she's sick. Okay, petitions, communications, oral written, anybody have anything?
I just wanted to say, and you probably heard that a few weeks back, when we were in Denver, we met with Senator Denia, or Representative Denia Esgar, and she is the chairperson for the Capital Development Committee. And talked to her about maybe reinstating some of the money for the Welcome Center. And of course, like they always say, they're tight for money, which they are. But she was going to look into it, even though she asked me how much it was, and I said, you know, the last time it was around $65,000. So I don't know where they're gonna go with it, if they're gonna be able to come up with it at all. But just want to let you know that we did, you know, give a pitch to see
The more
what
we
happens.
talk about it, the better it is, I guess.
So I just want to let you guys know that we gave it a shot.
Thank you.
Did she say when she would get back with you, Phil?
Well, that would not be up to her. She would have to take it
She
to.
just channels.
She's the channel. I mean, she would have to go to, you know, they go to finance, and you know, I'm not sure how that particular process would go.
Yeah, and it basically goes back to tourism,
Back to the tourism, they would have
and then
tourism
asking for
go-
more funding.
Yeah, they would have to go back to tourism to see if there's money in there.
Do we know, the research that I did showed that back in 2015, the state was either totally or partially funding, 10 welcome centers around, and I just wondered, do we know currently or from that meeting, if they talked about, how many they're funding now, or any kind of background?
They're funding 9 of them.
Yeah.
9 of them now.
They took, we gave them back their money, city
Right,
manager.
I heard that story.
So by us giving the state back that money, they distributed that money amongst the 9 of them. And the way it is they hadn't received any more new monies, so this was like kind of a raise to the 9 that were existing.
I see.
So they haven't went back to the state legislature and asked for more money.
Right, yeah, because they were saying that the amount of money that for their budget is very small for what, you know,
For
what
10
they should,
centers.
for what they should be funding the state of Colorado, but it's very, very small. Their budget's only like $500,000 or something like that. It's very small comparison to other states. So I did also see Kathy Ritter that same night to tell her that I had talked to Dania, and of course she was thrilled that at least we made the effort. So maybe through the channels we might hear something down the road. I'm not sure, but I may go ahead and maybe wait another month, because the legislative session ends in May. Probably by the end of April, they might have some idea if there's anything going on or not. But I could send Kathy Ritter a notice, say, asking her if she finds out anything, please let us know.
One of the other things on, I watched a work session that you guys had on our B&Bs. And I guess the city's working on it, we're gonna have a work session on it. And my thing, Phil, is on that meeting was, what's happening now is these things are doing business. And they're actually, if they go on the web and they see a room at the Holiday Inn, Quality Inn, La Quinta, and they see that those rooms, the price of them, and then go to an Airbnb, they see the lower rate, so they are going to them. So then we're losing that customer in our motel system, but yet we're not collecting any tax from these people. So to me, it's a concern as to the loss of revenue that we're having all the way around from the way it's set up now.
Right.
And then the fact that a lot of these places, they don't have a business license, and are they equipped to have these people in their residence? Or I noticed one of the suggestions was if you had 4 rooms, you should have 4 parking places, or if you have 2 rooms, you should have 2 parking places without taking out the person on either side next door to each other. I think it's a concern for the loss of revenue.
Yeah, you're right. As a matter of fact, in our code that we're looking at finalizing, the lady was here from, I can't remember the name of the company now, but she was here a couple of weeks ago in our work session.
Right.
And we went through all of that, and in there we're talking about Airbnbs, you know, and so there is some defined information in there as to how they're going to and how they should be operating. So it is coming, we're working on it. We just have to finalize that so that we can start doing that as well. So
I just
it
found
will
out.
come, it's just a matter of going through the
Okay.
process.
Just
I
to
just
let
found
you
out-
know, just
Yeah.
of the,
And you're talking
of the
about-
revenue loss.
We're
Right.
talking about the parking, there is a particular aspect in there about parking.
Mhm.
What I never could understand is they, always say for parking like 1.5 cars per.
Yeah.
And I told her, I said, it doesn't make sense, you can't learn to have cars, it was easier 1 or 2, so.
Does that mean a PT Cruiser and a?
Over this past week, I was talking to my neighbor, and which I never knew that they rent their house as an Airbnb, $139 a night. And the girl that was there right now staying, she was staying there 5 nights.
And that's the other thing is, what's short term and what's long term.
What's short term,
So
what's
that's
long
being-
term,
That's
yeah.
being defined as well.
Yeah,
And-
but I just $139 a night.
What is short term under 30 days?
Well, that's the thing that we have not got defined yet, and
Yeah.
I asked her, we need to get that defined so that we know if it's a short term, 5 days, is it 10 days, is it long term, 5 days, 10 days, 3 days, what is it? So
Yeah.
that definition is.
So-
That was a rarity, they told me that was a rarity, cause usually it's just 1 or 2 nights. That particular girl was a rarity, but they do charge, and she said they just rented out as much as they could get to pay for their mortgage, pay for the taxes, and they're done.
So
Let me
you
give you a
take,
good
you
example.
take 6 nights, that's $600.
Yeah.
Let me give you a good example. Let's take, for instance, the guys that are working over here at the Space Creek project.
Right.
They're here for several months. So if they're renting one of those places, you know, and we're talking long-term, of course.
Long-term,
So how that's gotta be controlled. So-
Where are a lot of those guys staying?
Is there any sort of short-term versus long-term difference on that 3% tax? This is just back to the,
It's
Like if
per
they-
sale.
so even if they
3%,
stay, let's say
yeah.
they're staying up for a month at the hotel, they get a discounted rate, I don't know.
No.
if that's
It's all based on the final,
The final
Final.
Okay,
Yes.
I just was curious if there was any
Right.
difference.
It's a-
Okay.
But we do know that we have to nail this down to
Mhm.
get it.
And we're not the
Well,
only
if,
ones.
if
We're
you
the-
take, if you take in a year of all of those operating, the loss of revenue that we're cheating ourselves out of, in this revenue.
Well, I think Lasai at one of the meetings sometime past, I think she kinda guesstimated off the top of her head somewhere around $65,000, if I remember right, the
There's-
lost revenues, so there's a substantial.
There's the funding for the Welcome Center.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know, so it's there for us to go take,
Exactly.
you know. Oh,
And
thank you.
just to
Alright.
add one more question there, which I'm not certain, well, let's just assume that everybody's considered this, is there a vehicle that allows the control of that, to ensure that the operator of those Airbnbs pay the money so that it ends up coming back here? Cause it's, you know, it's clearly one thing to, let's say, regulate it. We need to make sure that, you know, if they pay the Airbnb company, that it's somehow, accountable, and then so that that stream does in fact go into the system, much the same sales tax would and
The way-
general revenue tax.
The way SI says it is each motel pays their own sales tax to the city. When they book online, that company gets that money.
They're collecting
And
the
that-
3%
and that
sales tax.
And that tax.
We don't know where it's going.
And that tax doesn't come back to us, cause there's no record of any of those companies.
But there is, so
There is
Airbnb
record.
requires them to pay that tax.
But
As
there's-
to list themselves as an Airbnb,
Right.
that company requires them to pay that tax. So Airbnb, that
Right.
company has a record of the taxes that they are being paid. What we have to do is contact Airbnb.
Right, cause
so
they're
that
not
we
making
can-
an effort to contact us to get that sales tax.
They're not
So
required.
through this
They're not
process,
required.
through
If
this
they're
law
collecting
change,
that,
there will be that requirement.
Yes, yeah.
If they're collecting tax dollars and they're not disseminating that,
then it's required.
I'm guessing there's a law involved already in place for that, so hopefully there's some money sitting there accumulating.
That would be good.
Like that.
All right, thank you.
Okay. Everybody have a chance to read the minutes?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. We need a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Ms. Campbell?
Aye.
Mr. Kress?
Aye.
Ms. Latrell? Mr. Zeachus?
Aye.
Okay. Approval of invoices. Has everybody looked at the invoices?
There were 2 sets of minutes, Camilla.
Oh,
So,
sorry, I just saw that now.
That's okay, so there was the January 8th, I'm assuming that was what you just voted on, so then the
Yes.
January 29th minutes was a special meeting.
Yes.
We have a
Everybody
motion
read
to-
that second special minute?
I need a motion for that one.
Okay.
I'll
Need a
make
motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the January 29th meeting.
I will second it. I can.
Okay, so I don't know that we can approve that one because Amanda and Scott cannot vote on that one. They would have to recuse themselves since they were not
Gotcha.
there yet,
And you
so,
don't have a quorum.
yeah, we'll
Table that.
have to table those. And I'll put it on the next agenda.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, did everybody be able to get over the minutes? I mean, the invoices?
I would
Any
ask for
questions?
2 minutes to look at that
Okay.
and,
And these are
questions?
monthly, monthly invoices?
There's
Okay.
some that may be monthly and then there might
Maybe
be one
annually
in there
too.
that was.
And Marty, just so that we understand collectively, these invoices, for the publications are, it's already committed, it's already been voted on, correct?
Let's just pay them.
In regards to Co-Designery Solutions, she provides a monthly service at 10 hours, unless there's something above and beyond that she needs to do, and then she'll let me know that she needs more time to do it, and we'll approve that.
Has she pretty much stuck to that, or?
She has, except for this last month, so
Uh-huh.
we will be doing a report at the work session
Uh-huh.
when she comes up as, in regards to the changes that have been made. So we have gone in there and made some updates, upgrades,
And that's what she.
and
went in
changes, and so there will be some extra time for that we've done.
Okay.
But in the months that we've had her, which is over a year already, she's never gone over the 10
Okay,
hours.
that's good.
World Journal, the invoice was paid for $900, there's a balance on that of $88, I don't know why there's a balance, but the original bill was $988, so that's a financial thing, I'll have to go down and find out why she only paid $900.
Okay.
Phillips Broadcasting, that's a monthly bill, we have a contract with them for a year, and we pay them monthly.
So do we hold out on the World Journal one, or?
No,
Find out, or?
the bill is correct that we
Okay.
submitted already.
And just to be clear on that, that one was already approved, it's just an accounting with.
Yeah, all of these were approved, yeah.
All these are approved.
The expenditure was approved. The bill was submitted for $988. She only paid $900, so we've already
All right.
we've already approved the $988 payment. Out front is the billboard, south of town, and then tourism postage. We had a total of 346 reader leads this month, or last month. Domestic is anything in the United States. International, we had 18 international requests, and then we occasionally fulfill with visitor guides for relocation packets and other information, people that are making special trips here that want a city map or other brochures about the city, so that's what those are.
Marty, do you know if that's up from the previous year for?
The reader leads?
Yeah.
I haven't made that comparison, but I could find out for you.
That way maybe we could put it on that bill, if it's like increases each month. Just a little notation that it is increasing or decreasing.
So you want it, no, you want it on this, on the invoices monthly, that what the
Yeah, and that
comparison
way,
is?
that way we'll know if it's, if that is increasing, cause it seems like it is. From,
It does seem like it is. But I'd have to look on the last.
I couldn't say for sure, so I'm not even gonna say.
alright,
Okay.
Marty, this is, what I came to see you in your office and you showed me, correct, that
Right.
Colorado magazine where
Right, where they send us reader leads from the
they
magazine.
send reader leads from the magazine, and so if that expense is going up, that's probably a good thing, that,
Well, yeah, we're getting more interest in the community, for sure.
Right.
People, more
I
people
just-
wanna know what we're about, so,
yeah, I just wanna keep track of that, kinda like on the
Yeah.
invoice.
yeah, I will absolutely do that.
Just to let you know, on, one of the reasons, possible reasons for some of those leads, I don't know if you saw, read the newspaper night before last, but all this information that's coming out about Fisher's Peak is just beginning to balloon.
Right.
And, last month I was in Denver and, they asked me to speak at the, what's the name?
Saving Places?
Saving Places, and it turned out that their speaker that was supposed to speak, was not able to show up because she was at the Senate, so they asked me to expand on my speaking. So I did about it, I ended up being the keynote speaker. And there were about 600 people in the audience. So I tied in, our downtown area, which is what they wanted me to talk about, the historical value of downtown. But I also tied in the Fisher's Peak thing is how saving open spaces. So getting the word out is a big thing these days. So I think a lot of this, and there were like 600 people from the entire state of Colorado.
And then who do they tell?
And who do they tell? So this thing is beginning to mushroom quite a bit. So every time I get that opportunity, I do. As a matter of fact, I will have another speaking engagement in April for about another large venue in Vail, around 600 to 800 people from what I understand. And we'll continue to expand this about Fisher's Peak. So a lot of this tourism thing is gonna have to get tied in somehow.
Maybe we can give you some numbers as
That,
to.
yeah, that would be
you
good.
know,
That way they ask me.
You're right, and
Cause-
that way you can have that, as to things that are happening here on the tourism side.
That would be good, cause, what it is that one in April is gonna be, there's 5 panelists, and I'm one of them, and the other are the other 4 partners. And, they'll be asking us questions, so, yeah, but that information might be useful for them.
And then Saving Places has that other award dinner that's happening in May that they're recognizing us for the Space to Create.
Cool.
Yeah, I think we won the Dana Crawford Award of the year, so
Cool.
another chance to speak at that maybe.
So motion for invoices?
I make a motion to approve the invoices.
I second it.
In favor, Ms. Campbell,
Yes.
Mr. Kress,
Yes.
Ms. Latrell,
Yes.
Mr. Zeachus?
yes.
Okay. Old business. Grants,
So can I-
cycles.
For the last year, what the board has done, they made a decision to grant, requests for grant funding for events on a quarterly basis. So there's 4 different cycles throughout the year. One begins and ends in March, one begins and ends in June. September is the same, and then the last one for the year. So is there, interest in changing that, or do you want that to remain the same? It seems to be working. You guys can speak as to why you feel it's working or not working. I'll let you take it from there.
Well, prior to last year, we would have people come in whenever they wanted the grant cycles, and sometimes I've noticed last year, because of the grant cycles, the way they followed on, we didn't have a work session, we didn't have a voting session, and it got behind. You know, they missed the boat. There was a couple like that we couldn't put them in because, you know, it was too late. And I don't know, what does everybody else think? I'm gonna,
we have a $10,000 balance on the new ones, right? On new grants.
We don't
There's-
have a balance in our grants. We have a
Well,
budget set at.
we had a
did.
budget set for 20 and we spent
And
10.
we spent 10, so there's a balance of the 10.
No, we do not have a balance. There is no balance. No balance is carried over. The budget is set at its regular, and in that packet
So what
that I sent
happens
you,
to that 10,000?
it rolls into this year. It somewhere in some line item, there was no balance.
So does it roll back into its same timeline, or into its same line, and then there's?
But the budget doesn't change. The budget stays the same for that amount. That is a question for finance. I don't know where she put that, if there's a balance,
Okay.
but whenever you have a balance in a budget that you don't spend,
Mhm.
it doesn't carry over to the next year.
It goes back into the general fund?
No, it stays in tourism, but
Well, what
How-
might happen is there might be like a general fund within tourism.
Right,
And what they
so it
might
goes
do
back
is roll
into
that
that.
into that budget, so you might do is you might talk with
with
Cheryl
Cheryl,
to
Right.
see
see
if
what
that,
happens to that.
if that could maybe be allocated into your, one of your grant cycles at some
Right.
point, that might be something I wanna talk to.
So the other thing is, did we use all the money from the regular grant cycle?
Yes,
We
and
used
more.
our, and more.
There were
So-
some line items that we
So-
overextended, we overspent in
Right.
in some areas. And so what the focus is staying within your budget,
Okay.
your budget
Alright.
amount.
And that
So
money, and that,
anything-
then those monies are just moved.
Right,
Okay.
so you had requested last year, at some point, we overexpended in one area,
Mhm.
that
We
we
just
moved
moved it.
money from here to there, so basically pay,
And I
you know,
can remember a couple times that we
borrowing from
moved
Peter
it.
to pay Paul, so money moved around within
Right.
the budget, but the budget doesn't change.
I could remember we moved some around and we took it out of advertising.
Right, we
A couple
also
times,
put
right.
extra money in for grants.
So my thing is I could see where Camilla, she had been on the board previous to me. I like the quarterly thing. It's up to you, the recipient, to get in a matter of time, because you have 4 opportunities. When we advertise, you have those 4 opportunities to get your organization involved in one of those grant periods. Cause if you're in the spring and you wanna get something in for the summer, you need to get into the March one. Same thing with that, but that's the way
I
I see it.
understand that we just had this for a year, and prior to that, we had it opened. And I understand we're not giving it a good enough shot. We 1 year and then we take it away, it's like confusing everybody. And I think if we roll, and I said I was open on this, and if we roll with another year to see how it works to get people used to that grant cycle, probably is the better thing. I'll be honest, I was not in favor of this grant cycle. But I have talked to myself,
You know,
had
something that-
conversations.
Something that we have done with the marijuana money, this particular cycle that we just
Uh-huh.
went through last night, there is like $69,000 that we have available to give out to nonprofits.
Right.
So what you can do with that $10,000 is you can talk to Cheryl to see if you can open up a miscellaneous
grant cycle, for a new purpose, and see if anybody else will come in for that money. Or the other possibility, I'm not sure, has this happened before where there's been additional money left over from previous years?
No, well, this
This
is
is
this
first
grant,
time.
this 20,000 grant money was its first time.
Okay.
And we gave that to, the
Southwest.
Southwest Common.
Southwest Chief.
So we
gave
have
her
set
10,000.
aside
Okay.
some of our grant money to set aside for new
New-
things. And that's
new
all we
events.
used of that portion was 10,000, we didn't give it to anybody else.
So that's one way that you could utilize that, possibly.
Yeah, that's,
But
So just one-
I believe you have those grant cycles and enough time to see when your event is to get in the right grant cycle that you need to get into. I do feel you have that opportune time to get into that one. Now, if you come up with a new event, then there's that money that is set aside for that, so that is always open, so to me, I would like to see this work for a couple more years too.
and I'm willing to do it. The one example, correct me if I'm wrong, but it was, the Labor Day Parade. They had come in and requested some money, and then we didn't have meetings, so that put them behind. And then we rushed through it, didn't we?
Well,
We did do something. I know we did do something.
How the grant worked out was they ended up, and they always usually do, is they pay their bills and they use the funding that is granted to them by the tourism board to reimburse themselves. So that is one of the things that the board has expressed before, is
Of
it's,
doing that.
you're responsible to pay your bills. You can't rely on applying for a grant to do this. We will, you pay your bills and the money that you get reimburses you for those expenses. So, it was a little, she applied late, and as far as Tom's, suggestion, they need to be timely about applying for their grant. So if she would applied in March, she would have had her money by September.
And then you take a look at that and you see how long this Labor Day has been going on over 100 years, so it's the same time every year, so they do have that opportunity to go in any of those cycle grants to get in there, even in March to be prepared for September, so it's a thing that they could decide at their meeting in January that this is what they're going after and they can apply for the grant.
Something that's coming up, and, I'm not sure, I know you were there at the, Santa Fe Trail Planning Days. That's gonna be a big thing coming up, so that $10,000
Yeah.
could very well be used, cause they're gonna be coming out of the, there's gonna be a lot of advertisements
Sure.
gonna be
Well,
done, so
my-
that would be a good opportunity.
Right.
My suggestion to Marty was, once they get a board and an account and everything's set up, they can apply for that. That the tourism board will take care of their advertising for the Senate, for that portion of it. It is within all of those limits of that, but they do have to have a board and they do have to be set up, which I think would be an excellent opportunity for us to get involved. That's our opportune time, for that.
That would be a good recommendation for you guys to hold on that money for that particular period of time.
Well, there's $20,000 in there right now, so,
Okay, so, anybody else consensus, we'll leave it as is.
I
You
do
guys
have a
did well.
question.
Go ahead.
When you put the grant, making sure people know that that it's quarterly, what are the ways that you're getting that out into the community? I think that if you do make it a quarterly, opportunity, you just have to make sure that they are given the skills to make sure that, and the timeline, or the information. I know you said you changed the grant application a little bit, made it a little more,
Yeah, right.
a little more
Friendly
full
user.
and more instructions, so that when they come to us, they are prepared, they know exactly what they're saying. I guess my question is that, how are you relaying, or how apparent is it to the community that it's 4 times a year? What's the way?
There's an ad that goes, a quarter-page ad in the newspaper.
Okay,
It's on the website.
okay,
It's in the fine print. I think we
Is it on our
put it
Facebook
in, it's on the Facebook
Facebook
page.
page.
Okay.
It's also, I think we did last year, the Where for No the Journal.
Right.
Where else did we,
One
on
of
the
the things
radio?
about being an organization, you're always looking for money.
Right, so you're,
So you're pretty much aware of the tourism board.
Communication is everything too,
Sure.
word of mouth,
okay,
yeah,
I was just curious, making sure.
I announce it at Network Council,
right.
at every opportunity.
Okay,
And it's just like this bicentennial for the Santa Fe Trail. Marty did bring it up at that meeting that day about that tourism, so.
Yeah.
So it was,
So
there was,
kind of
how
like-
many people were in that thing?
Oh.
Maybe 75?
Mhm.
Yeah, so,
I think the point that you made is very valid.
yeah.
It's a challenge when, let's say it's an entity that comes into the community and they've got a great idea and they wanna do something. It's gonna require a certain amount of time because for myself, I wouldn't know to get to the tourism board, you would go to the tourism board manager who happens to be at the Welcome Center.
Mhm.
But the conversation certainly leads to that, whether you're at Moose's or the Kiwanis Club or somewhere, somebody's gonna get that.
Sure.
And I, Mr. Mayor, I like the point that you made about what we've got next year, that big Santa Fe Trail historical thing is excellent. We certainly want to protect some of the ongoing ones we have been supporting. We certainly want to take a look at those things. I would like, personally, well, maybe I should rephrase that and say that perhaps we as a board want to stay approachable, and so that I easily can support the cycles and promote it that way. But if there's a way somehow, whether they approach city council or our tourism manager that says there's an exception to the rule, we wanna know about it.
The other area that I think you should stay in contact with is the Chamber of Commerce. People come into the Chamber of Commerce and
Absolutely.
ask, where do I go
Yes.
for funding for, a tourism project or something that I've got available? At least they can direct them back to you.
Maybe if we kind of did some print,
Sure.
and have one in there all the time.
totally.
Well, it's
You know,
also
that-
posted, downstairs on the board at City Hall. I also posted it at the library, and I do send it to the Chamber of Commerce
Yeah.
within the post.
Very good, good.
So,
So we're out there.
at every opportunity, if I can
Okay.
think of it, it's there.
And we're the ambassadors too, so we'll make sure to
Exactly.
always be,
Oh,
yeah.
that's.
Okay.
Right.
Okay, so motion to do whatever you wanna do. Please,
I make a
keep it
motion.
the same, change it.
I make a motion that we leave it to the cycles that we have.
A second.
All in favor, Ms. Campbell,
Yes.
Mr. Kress,
Yes.
Ms. Luttrell,
Yes.
Mr. Zeachus.
Yes.
Totally against it. Okay, trolley, let's go for that trolley. How's it doing?
I
Go ahead.
I talked to Paul Marcus. You can go ahead and give him a call, Marty, and he'll come down and look at it. And if you can give him maybe the booklet and the phone number of the company.
I need to get a bid first.
Yeah, he
So-
just wants to go look at it and
Right.
see if it's possible,
Right.
you know.
Okay, so I'll call him down and let him into the garage and get
Uh-huh,
him.
yeah, and then you can go with it from there. I'm sure that maybe you can ask him if he charges to do what he's gonna do. But that'll give you a leadway as to if it can be done.
Okay,
And then that way we can have it taken care of by the time it goes into its season.
okay.
I think it's better that we take care of it now than we have a bigger problem with it in the end, that we don't rip the whole back end off of it or something else. But I would like to see our money spent in Trinidad if possible.
I agree, but I do have to open it
Right.
up for bids.
Yes.
3 bids. He's just gonna tell us where.
Right, okay.
And just so I'm clear, do we solicit for those bids? So we disseminate, cause I can think of a couple that would at least give us the bid, whether they're preferred or not, but they're local and.
The reason I went to Paul Marcus, cause he takes care of School District 1's buses, Honey's buses, Primero's buses, he pretty much has a fleet.
He's well
of-
equipped to
He
handle
pretty much
that.
has a fleet of 60 or 70 buses.
But there's
There's
other
some-
people in Trinidad who give us the bids.
Right.
Who's doing the service on it currently, the maintenance?
The city.
Yes.
Here's something to remember on bids, is that you can put out 3 bids or 5 bids, however many come in. Even though there might be a low bid, but you can still accept the bid that you feel will
Right,
do
I
the
understand.
More
best job.
comfortable,
Just
yes.
keep that in mind.
Right.
Right.
I
It
totally-
doesn't have to be the lowest
It
bid.
doesn't have to be the lowest.
It has to be the best bid.
I know he said, we know
just
there's
went
other
to
people that could give us bids in town.
I just went for the most qualified. Yeah, I felt, that would give us enough. So that's.
And so are we now establishing a bid period on this?
Yes.
We're
Do
establishing.
you want a bid period of a certain amount of days?
You can,
Do
you can,
help-
you can.
Help me out here, Scott,
I
what
know
do you
you-
say?
You cut me short with it. Yes.
Yes, we
Um,
do set a bid period.
Okay, so, we're going through that process to set that bid period.
We are as of right now.
All right. But just based on the time and where we are here, mid-February, we wanna get this thing up and running. We don't wanna miss out on any opportunity, so is it reasonable to say we set a 3-week period and
Okay.
we get a response?
That's
Is 3
reasonable.
weeks reasonable?
Okay, 3 weeks.
So
Any
maybe
other
we can get
conditions of the bid? That's it?
Yeah.
No, no other any other conditions of the bid she asked? No, let's just get it.
I think the other thing that would be good is when they put out the bid, have them give you a timeline to, when the.
Timeline for
project-
completion.
For completion.
Yeah.
Well, and
That's,
there's also the scope of the project here. We need to understand, or collectively to say, this is what we're out to accomplish. And I'm a little bit behind the ballpark here and I don't understand, is it the front bumpers that need to be lifted? Is it the
That's what
suspension
we'll find out.
system? So that's what we need to lay out. Oh, so we're still in the discovery of,
it's the suspension.
It's a suspension.
And that's where Paul
It's a-
Marcus
it's
comes
a
in.
lift.
That's where Paul Marcus comes into play, is to tell you what should be done. And then it goes out to
He's,
your.
he just offered to do that.
Sure.
Okay.
And then.
we can solicit the bids.
There you go.
Got
But
it.
just like any
All
other
right.
project that you have out there for the city, we always go, and you gotta get an engineering thing with any project we have. And they give you,
Right.
an
This is what you
estimated
need to
amount.
do to accomplish what
Yeah.
you
He
want.
may look at the specs of the bus and say, this is what you could do and this is what you can't do, and then.
Got it. Okay.
Then you
And that's
really-
nice that he's gonna help us out with that.
Right.
Okay, so I'll begin that bid process then. I will need, a motion for that, please.
I motion to contact Marcus to see, and see what he recommends, and then get the bids going on it.
Okay, second? All in favor? Campbell?
Yes.
Kress?
Yes.
Latrell? Yes. Lucius?
Yes.
There's a second part to that trolley, Camilla. What's
Map?
this shuttle program?
Shuttle program, yes.
What I need to know there is if we're gonna continue the shuttle program. So in your packets, you have the map that was produced on the back of the trifold brochure last year. This folds up, this is what our marketing piece was,
Right.
the long one. Flip it over.
Flip it over.
The
No,
long one. There you go. So that folds into a trifold brochure, and this was our marketing piece.
We did this on Friday and Saturday nights,
We did Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
and Sunday, to bring people down from the X11 highway corridor to Trinidad, so they could eat and drink and not have to drive, and to get them downtown. And we had a few people that ride the trolley, but we actually
It was
think
a short program,
It was a
we had
short
over
program.
150 riders.
Yeah. And, we have drop-off points throughout Trinidad to drop them off and pick them up.
Joey and I went on the bus to
to figure out where to stop and pick them up
Mhm.
and go. And they make a circle throughout town.
I actually caught this one night last summer, and it was a blast. It was a lot of fun. The only thing, I hope we continue this. I think that this is an excellent way, like we had talked about the shuttle, or just getting people out of the hotels, supplying that safe ride or that free ride. With the aspect of the historical trolley is something that I don't think a lot of places do have anymore. Has anyone reached out to any of the restaurants to see if there's any sort of coupon or discount, or if you ride the trolley, you can get so much of a half off a drink?
Rick's does.
Okay, that.
They just automatically did that.
Okay, maybe that should be more of part of the marketing or bigger part of the advertisements, that they know that, hey, there's something in this for me to, not just, spending a night out on the town and getting the free ride, but I can also hit this place and get something for free. Or if that's an option, I don't know if we had talked to every place or if there's.
It's a benefit for each individual.
And for the restaurant or business as well,
Right.
so
It is a benefit.
that could be something to
And
consider.
and to me, I also see it's a way for the tourism given back to the motels, which is where our tax is derived from.
Right. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if that's
That's a project you can take on.
Yeah, okay, perfect.
How are you handling, because I don't know, there's a couple of restaurants that are missing. One is your restaurant, the other one I'm seeing is the,
And you can be put on there.
Right, and that was one of the things when we
Yeah.
did last.
there's another restaurant here, which is Lee's Barbecue, and everybody else. How they get there, are we willing to transport them to any
Sure,
of those places? So.
Because the trolley does go up that way, and it can.
And I guess the only, was there any possibility of a daytime shuttle that could take us to Curly's Beans?
Well, I was just thinking of the daytime shuttle, if we could start a little bit, but I'm gonna be very honest. Our downtown merchants, sometimes Friday and Saturday, if they could stay open, that is the issue we have right now. So I would love to see that,
And
but when you only have one or two businesses opened, it's kinda hard to get them to go down there 2 o'clock in the afternoon, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, 4 o'clock in the afternoon, when they're closing.
One of the things.
Summer,
about-
it's a little different.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things about the motels, Amanda, is, what time do they start checking in?
3
You
or
know,
later.
yeah,
Right,
so
sure.
the trolley starts at 9, and there is a possibility of some people that stayed overnight, that are staying in Trinidad that day. It could possibly,
But
be a
also
good
our
idea.
trolley runs during the day, Amanda. We have it during the summer months, we have it going, picking up people at City Hall, the Welcome Center, and giving them the tour of the town. So we don't want to interfere with that
Sure.
by going up to the motels and bringing these people when we're giving people. So it's that balancing act we're trying to do.
Mhm.
And people do come in Friday night and Saturday night, they do get in at 3 or 4, and they would like to go to supper about 6 o'clock at night. That is what we're trying to work on. And we've ridden trolleys in other places where we've gone, and that's how they do it. We just don't wanna interfere with people. We take people to the college, to the different routes, and we don't wanna mess up our trolley rides throughout the day like that, because
There-
they are very popular, those trolley rides during the summer.
There is a possibility of, or could there be, if around 11 o'clock hour, to incorporate, around to the motels for like lunchtime downtown.
The trolley runs daily.
Yeah.
The schedule is a little bit different on particular days. During the week, it's usually 10 to 4. Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, or Friday and Saturday, it's 9 to 5. On Sunday, it's noon to 5. So it runs daily.
It runs daily, and we don't.
Those are
really-
the tours between Labor Day,
And that's a set.
Memorial Day and Labor Day.
That's a
set
set route as
That's a
well.
set route.
Well, just like that's a set route, we could have
Incorporate.
1 day or 2 days a week, or a few days a month that's a set route as well, but takes you to a couple of different places. Hey, check out this is our lunch trolley, this is our art trolley, this is those are just, probably
Good ideas.
off the board of what we're trying to get to the bottom of, but just to incorporate some more places like Lee's Barbecue, Bob and Earl's Cafe that's only open until 7 o'clock. We'd be off the beaten path by 6 p.m. at night. And places downtown, if we could collaborate with some of the merchants as well and let them know, hey, we have people who are willing to come to your store, make it worth it and stay open so that we can promote all of
Your
this.
trolley, you
But,
set the hours.
but I'm gonna be the negative person here, but then we're totally confusing everybody. Because
If we
now the
advertise it right, we
hotels, but
wouldn't
now the
have to.
hotels, they're gonna come up to say, when is the trolley running? We don't know, you're supposed to be here. If they're wrong, the trolley doesn't show up, people get upset.
I understand
Yeah.
that. I think it's all in the marketing and all
You
the
know, and I
advertising and all.
know, advertise, and then we have to rely on the hotel people
Mhm.
to tell these people when the trolley is gonna be here, not gonna be here, or even downtown. And people come into my store on a daily basis during the summer,
Mhm.
we're going for the trolley ride. Well, if that trolley ride and me, that I'm not up to par with a lot of things, saying, yeah, the trolley is gonna be here, and guess what, they're not there because they're going to the motel that day. Those
One-
people are gonna be upset, and they do get upset very easily.
One of the things about the motels is you can actually have where the trolley starts, where it is at certain points, and you can pick it up there.
Yeah.
And then that gives them at least a place to go catch it.
Mhm.
Now, I
You
wouldn't
know.
mind starting the trolley, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, the trolley runs until 5.
Friday, Saturday, and Sunday it runs.
So we just start, even if we start at, the last stop is 5, right?
The last tour begins at 5, so it starts at 5, it's back by 6.
And then it starts the motel
Then
run.
it starts in
Then
the.
it starts the motel runs.
Here's something that you guys are gonna have to really start thinking about in the future. When I gave, I'm not going with that, but we had that study that was done by CU, students last
Uh-huh.
year about the Fisher Street thing, and that, estimate was that in the future, that the city could see an additional 50,000 tourists into the city, into the community during the summer season evidently. So I mentioned, like I said at my address, that the restaurants especially, and even the businesses are going to have to start thinking differently in their time frame, and even maybe some of the offerings that they have. So where I'm going with this is that it could very well be, because you're trying to figure out how to incorporate getting people to restaurants and have the trolley still operating. You guys may have to invest into a small bus.
That has been discussed.
And so that you can pinpoint, so that you can, if somebody calls and says, I wanna go to Bob Earl's, or I wanna
Right.
go to, downtown, so to Bricks, or whatever, so that
Right?
we need to prepare ourselves for what's
We have
coming.
to.
So that's right.
One of the things I suggested, Phil, in one of our meetings was where the funding that is coming into the tourism it's gaining every year. So I think in the last 2 years, it went up like 26,000 is what it is. What I wanted to do was take that money and set it aside for the purchase
Of a van. So we can go around at
And
different times
instead of
with a smaller vehicle.
And because it pretty much stays the same. But then what came into play at that time was how much funding were we gonna have to give to the Welcome Center? Or is the city gonna kick in like they did for the 2 years for the loss of the funding out of the marijuana money? So that was the conversation that had come up. So until we can get to that, was the decision left on that was the funding of the Welcome Center. But if we are getting an increase in revenue from the motels, I felt that the increase would be smart to set it aside for the purchase of a van.
So then that van could run up on
Right.
weekends rather than our big bus.
Well, it's available for
It's
so
a-
many
but it's,
things.
it's available.
And it's a lot more mobile than the trolley would be.
Right.
So
And it could get around a little bit.
that's where we were with that, Phil, at that point.
But, that's something that, like I said, just continue to keep on the radar.
Yes.
Because as you know, the other motel that's gonna get, hopefully break ground, hopefully this summer.
And we have another one,
So an
yeah.
increase of people staying there, the increase of availability to have
And
a
also-
small bus to travel around.
And also this, absorb maybe fees that come into play, you know, that revenue loss there. You know, so we're increasing our revenue, we have an opportunity to go after more revenue, and those all come into play as to what we could spend for tourism for Trinidad.
You know, the other thing too is there someone, an entrepreneur that would wanna take that upon themselves? Is there somebody that would want to be, we need to start looking at this globally. We need to start thinking of ourselves as a tourist destination.
Yes.
And what all encompasses that.
And be ready for it.
Be ready for it,
Be ready for it, be in the forefront.
exactly.
Yeah,
So we need to think about that.
we do.
So my, request then of the board is to review these two pieces of marking pieces to see if there's any changes you need to make, if there's anybody wanna add, anybody wanna remove, anything you wanna change, let me know, and then we'll, if it's the board's desire to move forward or not with the shuttle program for the summer.
Okay.
When you wanna start, what hours you wanna do it, so if you could think about that, and then we'll put that on the next agenda for a vote.
So, like you said, maybe this could be my first project.
Okay.
Okay, so is this where I motion to make to make my project? Okay, I motion that within maybe 2 weeks, I'll stop by each of these participating restaurants to make sure they're still involved. And if they'd like to offer up some sort of coupon, percentage, free drink, anything to collaborate with the trolley.
Yes.
And that could be put in this?
And that could be a part of
And
the
we will
marketing program.
include.
Or a coupon book
We
or
could
something that could
include,
just sit inside of
yeah.
the brochure, that could be another draw to, and a benefit for the places.
One of the things that
Wait,
Joey.
I need a second
oh,
for her motion,
Hold on a sec, cause,
then you can have discussion.
all right, we'll do it that way.
I second it.
Okay.
Okay,
Discussion.
no, well, vote.
Okay.
Campbell,
Yes.
Press,
Yes,
Latrell,
Yes.
Zeches,
Yes.
any discussion?
Yes.
Yes.
we'll start.
Go ahead.
The only thing, Camille, you gotta be careful when you as you're acting chair today.
Okay, I won't second no more.
So somebody should actually, otherwise should say something.
Okay.
So, I guess part of it is, what I'd like to talk about is, do we wanna include like the golf course and the bowling alley on Santa Fe Trail? And I'm assuming right now that the bus goes from exit 11 down Santa Fe Trail, is that correct?
Yes.
So.
It's already on the path.
That brings in something that's more, an entertainment or a destination purpose, and of course, there's food involved in that as well. Because collectively, we're not benefiting from a restaurant. What we're doing is offering the feature to the guest.
Mm-hmm.
So with that in mind, and then the second piece of the equation is, do we wanna incorporate a stop that's co-located underneath the expressway where the city has parking, and also the Amtrak train, somewhere in there, now, and of course, just that fast I see, the Great Wall is listed there. So I just wanna know, because it actually goes all the way back to, Phil, your comments about parking with Airbnbs. A lot of Main Street doesn't have parking, let's say, right in front of their business. Obviously, there's parking on the side streets and in the new parking lot off of Commercial, great. But, do we wanna start to make that a primary place where people know that they can go, they can park under there, the vehicle's gonna be safe, they can get on the trolley, have a good old time, come back to their parking?
One of the things that Joey and I, to answer you about parking.
Okay.
One of the things that we did was we used the parking lot for Moose's, which was a city
Right,
parking lot.
right.
And then the Mission Bell, we figured that if we could not park in any of the places in front of the Mission or Bell or Luna, we would go in front of the bank. That would let them off there. And the same thing as the bricks. If we could not park in the front of the bricks, we would go down to the museum and let them off there, which they could go now to either the bricks or to
Nanos and Nanos,
Nanos,
Reno's, that
and
area
Reno's.
down
They
there.
can go to there,
Right.
and then swing around and come down to the barbecue place, and then we came and we went down on Commercial in front of Grado's Insurance, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then that way, if there was no parking there, you can get off and go to, what a grind, right?
Something that you might wanna do, and just a
Los Angeles.
recommendation here
Los Angeles.
is that, that's gonna be a lengthy discussion. And some of these discussions, I think, hey, you're just looking for the shuttle program, whether you wanna consider it.
Continue
Yeah,
on.
we
Take a
wanna
look at it,
yeah.
Take this as how all the stops are in the work session, and that we can move along here.
Because the more
why I asked you to
stops we
review
get
these,
on
so
here,
that we
the
can have
longer
it
that
next
bus
meeting.
ride is gonna take, and the longer people are waiting for this bus ride.
I
You know, How long do you want to, 2 hour wait?
Right.
It was
You know,
more-
if you're stopping in all these places.
I just
So,
want Amanda to understand the weight of the, things she just volunteered for.
Oh, yeah, uh-huh.
yeah,
Okay.
you know, but I think we should right now decide if we're going to continue this program, the shuttle program, right?
Right. So with that is basically what she just said.
Okay.
So we have, place a motion.
So we have a
Motion.
motion on the floor.
To get all that sorted, and then we will make the final decision on what it would look like, or what it, right? Okay.
Right.
And this is
Okay.
just to proceed.
Okay. Well, that was fun.
All in favor? Camilla?
I,
Tom?
Aye.
Amanda?
Aye.
Scott?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. The letter that's in your packet doesn't require any action, it's only in there informing you that was, for the new board members, you weren't in receipt of that letter because it was prior to your election, but, to your seating. So I just included that for your information.
And does that mean there won't be any, professional shows this summer? That's what I understood from the letter?
That's how I understood it.
Okay.
I think
But
that
the
one-
Trinidad
local.
community,
Okay.
right, the performing arts piece of the Trinidad community portion of it will continue.
Okay.
And then you know that, Harriet and Fred have retired, so that's what that is.
So the SRC,
SCRT.
correction, SCRT is going through a new leadership
Yes,
because, the current have decided to retire. Okay.
and I think there was some budgetary issues that she noted in here as well. I also included in your packets the Facebook analytics. So the one that concerns you is the Visit Trinidad, Colorado, and this was in, where's the date on that? January 8th, 2020 is the analytics from that, so I just wanted to give you, information on that, on how it's increased, on visitations, engagements, etc. And then I will give you one of these monthly so that you can make a comparison.
And is that the page that Chronicle's taken over?
Yes.
Okay. And just starting this month or last month, or how long has that been?
It's been 3 months.
Been 3 months, okay.
Yeah, this will be their 4th.
Okay.
And it's just a month by month, so we can, whenever we feel that we don't need them anymore, we can stop that.
Okay.
But it's progressing,
Okay.
it's working.
Okay. And how do we get information to the Chronicle for updates, posts? Is that kind of all on them? Do they follow?
No, you can send it to me, I can send it to them, or
Okay.
you can contact Kurt at the
Yeah.
Chronicle.
Because it was very updated when I looked at it the other day. I was just curious
Yeah.
if there's a
You can
system
contact
of
them.
how we.
Yeah,
In
in
touch
fact,
with Marty.
Cy and I can both post as well.
Okay.
The
So
way,
if you have
the
something,
way
I
I
can
feel
post it
about
as
it is
well.
they're in the news business,
Mhm.
so they know a lot of what's going on and.
But
and I
Marty
think
can,
it's-
if you've got something, Marty can
Yeah, I
post
can
it.
post it. I
She
don't
could get in there and
administrate
post
it.
it so fast.
Okay.
The one thing that I kinda wanted to, with your permission, kind of, ask the Chronicle to make sure that the posts that are being made are tourism related. Sometimes they're more local news related, and I wanna keep it in that tourism
That's
vein.
fine. I agree.
So that it's interesting to, you know, people that are coming to the community, they don't need to know our news per se, they need to know tourism related information.
Yeah, right.
And to ask you a question, is there, so there's nothing as far as Google ads, so there's no analytics for that? We're not doing anything with
We do not have any Google
streaming?
ads right now.
Okay,
There's your project stuff.
I wanted that project.
Kiosks, Camilla, is that next?
Yes, that's next.
Okay, so, staff was directed to find out information on the kiosks that, to post some information on, so I recontacted, at your suggestion, Mayor, Judy Walden, to see if we could post anything on the backs of those. At my first, initial contact, she said no, there weren't any. So I asked her to look again to see if there was something that we could do. So this is what she came up with. So available spaces on the kiosk panels, the one at El Moro. There's a 3-panel kiosk that faces I-25. There's 3 blank spaces on the back side, but currently people are not able to walk up to or around the back of it. So this might be a ideal location, what she says, to engage visitors in a long flow of information. So what do we have that we could put on the back of that? And it might behoove us to go to these locations and take a look at them and see what they are and what we wanna put on the backs of those, or what you wanna put on the backs of those. Cokedale, there's no blank spaces on it, so there's not an opportunity there. North Lake, the manager at the water supply said that he wanted to put some information on the back, or perhaps put up the kiosk there. So there's your feedback. So as it stands right now, I'm waiting for Judy to get back to me on guidelines that the state has on this and the highway CDOT has on these, so that we can move forward with whatever information you wanna utilize on those.
And they're pretty much for points of interest, right?
Tourism information. So Tom, at your request on media buy plans, I included this piece for your review. It'd be my suggestion, since your next meeting is a work session, that you take this and review it a little bit more. There doesn't need to be any action taken on it today, so it might be moved into the next meeting.
And is there, that'll be on the next board packet, so we know exactly what to look for and what we'll be discussing and making decisions.
I will put it on the agenda, but since you already have it, I won't include it in the packet.
Not the actual,
If you could bring it back.
Okay, sure.
What, if it's possible, what I would like to do is, have all of the entities that are advertising with us, that we do a work session on the way out of all of them, like KRDO, KCRT, and then make a package for ourselves of what we want from each entity.
Okay.
That's the way I think, that's the
So
way we
you
should
want
look at it.
a media packet
Right,
put
that way.
together for you at the next
That way
work
we
session?
have all of the entities that we're advertising with.
All right.
And then we can go back to, the one sheet that did you print that for, Scott and Amanda?
What sheet?
The one, the media plan that,
That's what he has in
Andrew,
his hand.
right, that we base everything on that we take from each one of these entities a certain amount.
Well, let me remind you that your advertising and publication fund, with the encumbrances that were just, for the last encumbrances we have, you are overspent already on your advertising and publication line. You have no money left for advertising and publications.
And just to be clear on that, because that was before our some of our tenure
Exactly.
here, are we engraved in stone and we can't change that commitment?
Now,
or-
last year, what we did was we moved money from one pot into the other, because we overspent in one line. So just,
So when will you have our budget?
financials will be reviewed at the work session.
Okay, so then we can go from there.
Yes, sir?
No, we haven't received anything from KRDO, right, as to
No.
salary
No,
tax?
and on that note, Connie Martinez contacted me, she's no longer with KRDO.
Okay, so we probably, the possibility of not receiving anything from them is there.
Nobody's reached out to us.
Okay, so then KCRT is part of this, have we agreed on a contract with KCRT? Did we ever?
You have not.
We have not.
No.
But
And-
there's also a line called outside contract services.
Right.
So
Right.
those are the types of things that you commit to as a contract that you can put into outside contract services.
Right.
Which is your biggest line item in your budget.
My thing with that, Marty, is, and to the rest of the board members, is, the way people come and get grants from us and then they advertise in all these places, is that we're all on the same page as
Right.
to where we're spending our money and where we're giving our money, and then they're advertising in it. So what I wanna do is look at the big picture of it all as to where all of our money is going, you know,
You don't want to
Right,
call it.
which is
know.
what you did when you did your, retreat.
right,
When I presented you that
Right.
entire packet and
Right.
you decided this is where you wanted to spend your money,
Right.
that's what we've done.
Right.
and that's the way I wanna continue.
Okay.
With that, like that, is that I don't wanna give an organization $10,000 and then we're advertising in the same thing with the four of them at the same time.
Right.
So that's kinda where Scott, you kinda have an idea.
Well, I'm certainly following the progress here of the conversation, and so, but going back to the 2020 commitment, if we're dollar committed out and it's set in stone, is that because we have contracts with them, or because the previous board has made, motions and voted and said this is what we're going to do?
Right,
And-
Yes.
and
Because
the
a lot of
benefit-
these magazines, you need 6 months out.
Right, and the benefit of my concern here is paper advertising. I don't know it's where we wanna focus our dollars. And then there's some other pieces are missing, like, as Tom mentioned, if you have somebody who's awarded a grant, and those grant funds are supposed to be spent in advertising, we wanna know where, because if they're doing it in dollar amounts, then maybe we wanna require that, somewhere in their little fine print there, that they say, this event is co-sponsored with advertising dollars by the Trinidad Tourism Board.
It is.
it's actually required.
It
Okay,
is
wonderful.
required.
So then, what we don't wanna do is overlap those
Right.
efforts. And I think, Tom, that's your comment there,
That's his
so I
point.
agree with that. But, overall, just coming into this, and coming in relatively a new calendar year, my concern is I look at the Facebook analytics, is I wanna introduce Google Ads and some streaming advertising. Well, really what I wanna do is not look for other places to get that capital. I probably wanna take it away from here. But I'm absolutely not in that position to make that, any kind of conclusions, because, we're, as an example, the True West publication. I'm an advocate of that. I see the benefit in that. The Colorado tourism, the state of Colorado's tourism publication. I see the benefit of that as well. But it does get to be a thing where you have to look at some of these things and say, are we really getting the benefit for, or the bang for a dollar?
From the time I was come on this board, we have reined in quite a bit of magazines.
Yeah.
We've taken our money back from them. We're picking the ones that we feel we're getting the bang for it.
Okay.
That's.
The work session's gonna help me get up to speed on that.
And when you come in, you're gonna see where you're gonna wanna rein in. So everybody has that point. You're big on Google. So there is money to go to Google, we just have to move it. You have to understand,
I got it.
there is money
Right.
in there.
Okay.
But what we wanna do is get the best bang for our dollars. That's what we want, and that's why you're here to help us get that money for that, you know, is to pick the right things that are gonna benefit us. Marty has some of the advertisements that we have done in the magazines, if you can get with her to look at them, and we have really changed them, you know, and we are advertising for the tourism of Trinidad. The entities at the city, the golf course, Fisher's Peak, the new addition, you know, Monument Lake, the golf course, you know, these are the things that we have to.
So then is it the board's, desire then to table all of these, advertising media kits until the work session to
Yes.
review? Okay, so then we can skip Chronicle News, the media buy plan, KCRT, and LMNOC.
Yes. And you could schedule a work session.
And then I'll put a media package together with past advertisements and what you have remaining for 2020.
That would be great.
Okay?
Thank you.
All right.
Do we need a motion to table that?
I make a motion to table,
You can't make a motion.
I can't make the motion.
I'll make
Okay,
the
thank
motion
you.
to table that.
Thank you.
You looked right at me. You did look right at me.
Second? All
You
in
gave me
favor?
that eye.
Campbell,
Aye.
Press,
She didn't look at me.
Latrell,
Aye.
Zeechus.
Aye.
Thank you. Website updates. I had invited Christy in to do website updates, and she felt like it was gonna be too lengthy to do at a regular meeting, so I'm going to put it onto the, work session agenda.
Okay.
So, can I have a motion to table that as well?
A motion to table that until next work session.
Thank you. Second.
I'll second that.
All in favor, Campbell,
Yes.
Press,
Yes.
Latrell,
Aye. Yes.
Leaches,
Yes.
Santa Fe Trail Bicentennial. I'm just gonna give you a quick update. We did have our first meeting. There is a second meeting scheduled for March the 2nd. It will be at the A.R. Mitchell Museum. There was a really great turnout at this last meeting. Some fantastic ideas, things that have come forth since then. Got in touch with Haskell Hooks, who's directed me to Jim Bell, who is in charge of the, I wanna say the 10th and 12th Cavalry of the Buffalo Soldiers.
Buffalo Soldiers.
Okay.
So I'm having conversation about that.
What time is the meeting, March 2nd?
Wait a minute.
11 o'clock,
11?
usually lasts till 1, so bring a lunch. Other conversations, working with, the lady that's going to rededicate the plaque at Kit Carson Park for the DAR. So.
When is that gonna be? Is there a date?
She's looking at earlier in the year. She doesn't think they're gonna be able to postpone it until, the last of September when our event is taking place. But since some of the discussion at the meeting was that it could be a year-long celebration.
Yeah.
It will be part of our advertising packet for what's going on in our area. No actions required on that. Pichara Mountain Park.
Sorry, just to go back on,
Okay, I'm
on the bicentennial. SFT. I know Allison would really appreciate to know how much she sets up for
Oh, yes,
for
absolutely.
people on that.
Yeah, I do request, ask for an RSVP.
Okay. Yeah, that's the only feedback there.
Thank you. Sorry, Camille, I'm getting ahead of you.
No, go right ahead.
No, you're leading the meeting. I'm just getting carried away here. My apologies.
So we left off on the Kachara Mountain
That's right.
Bar ski lift.
Yes.
So I included in your packet conversations, emails from Wally to the folks at Kachara Mountain. I also included there all the information on the ski lift and the program that they've got could I invite Wally up to speak on behalf of that?
Yes.
Yeah, most of the information is in there. It's just they're working on revitalizing lift 4 of the ski resort. I just see that as it could be an economic driver for our region of people coming here to take advantage of that. Also offering just people within our community more activities for them to entertain themselves and make our area more appealing for people that think there isn't enough to do around here. The main benefits I see of it are just winter sports is a huge, huge economic driver throughout our entire state. The number that I keep on throwing around is that I went to the economic outlook, the Colorado State Economic Outlook for 2020, and in that report they shared that 23.6% of all money spent on skiing in the entire United States is spent in Colorado. And so it's just a huge sum of money, billions of dollars that really our region isn't much benefiting from other than people buying gasoline on the way to going to other places. So anything we can do to support that type of entity within our region, I encourage us to do. We've already raised $1,000 through the Trinidad Trails group to sponsor 2 of their chairs for the chairlifts.
How much is it per chair?
500.
500.
Yeah. And each of those chairs gets a plaque on it, so the tourism board would get a plaque on the chair saying that this was brought to you by the Trinidad Tourism Board.
And then we're sponsoring one whole chair.
I think it might be 2 chairs on a lift. Each of them holds 2. So yeah, I think that it would be 1 here and 1 here. That's what I got for the email.
It also states that you'll receive a 1-year season pass the first year that they're able to provide you with uphill transportation, so.
Maybe there's some sort of raffle giveaway you all could do, or.
That's not gonna happen for me.
That could be something that you all do as like a Facebook promotional item or something like that. Get people to participate on Facebook and they could win a season pass.
When are their plans to do all this? What's their scope?
Well, according to that email, they think
Yeah.
they could have it running by this summer, but I think that's been pretty optimistic.
Pretty optimistic, huh? Okay, yeah.
So when do we have to?
I'm asking for a motion at this meeting so that we can do this. Or you
Right.
can table it.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say, no, I don't believe that there is a set deadline. I think that they're just trying to raise money until they get what they need to. It's mainly to pay, and to fix it up a little bit, but mainly to actually pay an inspector to come and do the work to actually make sure that it's operational. Which they have done a preliminary inspection, that the cable is good and the motor is good. They hooked up a generator to it.
And they will let us know when all that takes place and see if they could run with it.
Yeah.
I think I need to be careful, just make sure there's a caveat in there that when that money is to be released.
To be released, but I would like to table this until we find out a little bit more information on that,
Okay.
you know, yeah.
I'll make the motion that we table this. But,
Second.
Discussion more?
yeah, there's.
Cause I wanna discuss it a little bit more, we like to discuss it.
Yeah.
Cause I read something else here too, so I would like to talk about it a little bit more.
Okay.
The one thing about it is the more advertising we have out there, it's a benefit to us.
Mm-hmm.
So if everybody around, all the other communities are advertising on this, it's a benefit for them. So I do feel it's a benefit for us to be as part of that.
And Wally, I get it, and so, but to cover the conversation, the chairlifts, of course, are gonna run all year long, presumably, so that in the wintertime they're skiing, in the summertime they're gonna haul bikes up there.
Yeah.
And last year I was out there with a motorcycle, and there's a path that goes around that whole thing, and it all feeds back into the base camp of that. So we have potential, the way to, tap into a lot of population that's availing those facilities. My question then becomes, where are these people coming from? Are they local to Kuchara? Are they coming from Denver, all points?
I think it would be a lot of regional people taking advantage of having him here there,
Mhm.
from Guichara, Lolita, Trinidad.
Mhm.
But I think a lot of it would be Texas, yeah.
One thing that you have to realize that when Kuchera was built, it was built by the Texans.
Yeah.
So once that ski resort gets going, it's gonna be Texas.
And they have the
And-
summer homes there, those are the
and-
Texans that have the summer homes.
Yeah.
And
They will come back.
And to get to Kuchera, you come to Trinidad. So
Well,
it's a win for Trinidad.
absolutely, and that was my follow-on point is, does it make sense to tie something in with, Monument Lake out there? That's a city facility, so we would absolutely benefit from that as well.
Mm-hmm.
So,
That's why I was asking you as to what
Okay.
can you put on the chair?
Yeah.
You know, is it just our tourism emblem?
I think it is just a
What-
plaque saying this chair was brought to you by, I can double check on that information, for sure.
And is it possible to any of the city-owned entities that can be on there, like the golf course, Monument Lake, you know,
Oh, yeah, we buy
those
one.
those
Yeah,
things.
yeah.
I imagine that they would allow that if we gave them that much
Gave
money.
that much money. Yeah,
So-
they-
So,
Yeah.
see, and that's the thing with me, is advertising on it.
Because right now, the park, Trinidad Trails did 2 chairs.
Yes.
They haven't given them any money yet, but they give, or have you given them?
Actually, I think the money has already gone to them.
You know, money's already
Yeah,
gone to them.
we set up it was a GoFundMe and it was set up to automatically go to their nonprofit
Okay,
as the
alright.
money was raised.
Okay.
So yeah, we are already in with them for 2 chairs through Trinidad Trails.
Trinidad Trails.
Yeah, and I wanted to ask you all, I think Parks and Rec was considering possibly doing something with it, but just trying to find as many ways we can to support them, because I think overall in the long run, if they get that place operational, not only for the skiing, but yeah, like you said, the mountain biking, it would be an excellent training park for that as we continue to invest in that industry in our region. It would be really good.
Yeah.
So, cool. I just wanted to let you all know that that was something to consider. So,
Thank you
yes.
all.
Okay,
Cool.
this
Thank you.
table don't need a vote. Camilla,
Yes.
Press,
Yes.
Latrell,
Yes.
Zeachus.
yes.
I didn't have any items under board reports, but if you have anything,
Do you have any board reports? No. Okay, staff reports?
somewhere. I've lost my staff report. Scenic Highway of Legends, the tourism board, responded to a request by the Scenic Highway of Legends, who has actually applied for National Scenic Byway status. So we sent him a letter of support to see if we can get that done.
Okay.
Thank you.
That's pretty big on the national level to be recognized as a National Scenic Byway, so I hope they get to do something. That's all I have. Request by the Scenic Highway of Legends for representation at some of their meetings by Trinidad. currently I'm on the board, but anybody that wishes to step up to see as representation.
I was agreed to go on that, but I was never given any dates of the meetings that we were having.
So
And
Tom, you wanna,
Yeah.
If I could also come along, that would be great, just, I love that.
so Tom and
And my
Amanda,
location, you know, for sure.
they don't have any meetings, Tom.
One of the meetings that they did have, I don't think you and I had crossed, I had asked you when it was and where, and I think you got back to me a couple days later.
Probably because, okay, all right, I will,
So,
better
just-
communication.
Mhm.
All right.
Just so, but I do feel it's a tie with us, so I think it's important that we be there.
Okay. I just need some dates requested, suggested by the board and the mayor to meet with Monument Lake, staff, golf course, and city council to discuss collaborations with the tourism board and
We
going
probably-
forward.
And we probably would like to do that at a work session, which would typically, we make them on Mondays.
Mhm.
So keep that in mind, of the, every other Monday opposite of our regular city council meeting, so keep that in mind.
And did you
We'll
want
have
to
discussion.
invite Mr. Mondragon and, I don't know who's in charge of the golf course.
It's Jeff, he's the manager, isn't he, of the?
I don't know.
I think he is. He took the place of the gal that was there before. But Jeff isn't. If we can have a discussion on that, or can we, or no?
That's fine, I just.
My thing is, not to more or less have a work session, but for them to understand that they can come to us for grants to advertise the golf course and Monument Lake. That was one of the things that I had expressed was.
Yeah, maybe that would be, instead of having a work session then with council,
Mhm.
maybe you just invite them to one of these meetings.
Sure.
And you guys can determine that, maybe that would be the better way to go.
Well, like I had reached out to, I'd reached out to the golf course, which, they haven't responded with any grant form. And I reached out to the manager of Monument Lake, and I never got a response back from him. But it was just me reaching out to them, that money was available for their entities, and my concern is that as being a part of the tourism board, I would like to advertise the entities of the city, the golf course, Monument Lake, and for them to come to us and ask. That was my thing about getting
Well,
involved.
that's all that you can do, is reach out and say, do you want to let us help you?
Yep.
You know, and if they don't respond, then what can you do? That's the
Right,
thing.
and that's when you and I had talked, or you were here at one of the meetings, and you said, I think you had said you would get a hold of Mondragon.
I have a call into him for something else, actually,
Yeah.
from the day before yesterday.
And it was just to inform them that there is money for them was my thing in there, so.
So do you wanna set a meeting date or not?
Just to follow that up and to answer the question, what do we do? It should be that if the tourism board, reaches out to them to say, hey, this is the case, and one of these entities, whether it's the golf course or, Monument Lake, is not responding, well, those are city entities, so we should be able to then go back to city council and say,
Mhm.
geez, you might wanna look into this. Cause we've reached out to them and they're not communicating with us, because the city, council has a responsibility to that city entity.
Now, the thing about it
No,
goes like,
but they're-
you know, like, if, for instance, the golf course, have you tried John Tucker, is he chair of the board out there?
I talked to Brett Platt, is who I had talked to.
Okay, Brett, okay, that's fine. Now, the
And he
Monument
sits
Lake,
on-
being that they're on a contract basis with us, we really can't tell Brian, you have to do this.
Yeah.
Right, no, it
No,
was
no,
never,
I
it
get
was.
that point, but when that contract comes up for renewal, now you got a report card that says,
True.
and all we're doing here is communicating the information. We're not forcing anybody's hand on anything, but I think,
Just to let them know we're available for them.
Oh, like I said, I got a call
That's-
again cause like I said, I tried to contact them on some.
But also, we could advertise those things, they don't need to come to us
And we
for
do.
money, we do
And we
advertise
do.
those things.
Right.
So if they don't want any extra advertising, so be it. I hate to, you know, we will still advertise those entities as part of, things to do in Trinidad.
They're in multiple locations
They're
on the
mo- yeah, we
website, they're on the
advertise
visitor
constantly
guide,
with
they're
them.
in
It
several
was just an
ads,
opportune
so
time for
in-
them,
Right.
is what it
I
was.
think you're doing your due diligence in supporting the area's tourism assets, including the golf course and Monument Lake. So, you know, if you want to offer them additional funding when you're already supporting them, that's entirely up to you, but do know
supporting them.
that if you look at the visitor guide, if you look at the website, if you look at anything that the tourism uses for advertising and marketing, that they are always included. Okay, so date for the Buxton report. So now that the board is fully seated, would you please choose a date so that we can get Buxton back here to do the visitor profile study report and training?
Did they say anything kind of date that they would be available?
She said we canceled the last one,
Right.
so it's entirely up to you guys to reset that date.
Sooner the better.
And what would this entail? Or is it a work session, it's a whole profile?
It could be a special session, it could be a work session, whichever is, it's entirely up to you.
They're coming to us to do a
They
presentation.
are not coming here personally, it's a webinar type
Okay, that's
presentation.
fine.
And kind of a work.
So it
workshop.
doesn't have to be a work session, it can be a special session and you pick the date.
Okay.
All right.
Let's not pick the date today, we've got a
But-
few
but
things
do
to
know-
look at.
But do know that this, report and training is probably gonna take about 3 hours.
It's a special session.
And you had mentioned earlier that you wanted to focus primarily
On
on
that.
that, and focus on that only without any other interruptions or any other agenda items.
And we do have large TVs that I place here for you so that you're not looking at
We're not
anything.
squishing? Okay.
Marty, when do you want to do it? As quick as possible? Get it
Sooner
over
the
with, the
better.
sooner the better?
Give me a couple of dates to make sure that they're available on one or the other.
And do we wanna talk to side before we?
Well,
Well, we know it can't be on a Tuesday, so it'd have to be on a Monday.
Monday, or even if that, between oddball Wednesday that we don't have anything, we'll do a special session sometime in March, let's,
There's a calendar right behind you. So your regular session is on March the 11th, your work session is on the 25th.
What about we could have the 18th as a
we
date?
could try the 18th.
Or, and maybe the 16th, because that'll be a whole week off, we could try for that Monday or that Wednesday.
And does that one need to be, Mr. Mayor, does that one need to be in the odd week from your city council meetings?
All our city council meetings are on Tuesdays,
Yeah.
so. any-
Oh, I
And
thought
those
you
are in the
meant not in
evenings,
that
Jen,
whole
right.
week. Okay, I missed that, all right.
Let's
So
try those 2 dates, 16th and 18th.
Particular time,
Early, I would
Early.
say 9.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm supposed to
9
be out.
AM?
Oh, wait a minute.
I'm supposed to be out of town, but I don't know what week it is. I don't know if it's the week of the 27th or the week of the 20th.
Would we have a free week on the 30th as well? We could maybe throw that Monday the 30th in there if that's.
Say the sooner the better, because we only have this for a year.
right, we only have this for a year.
Yeah.
Well, do we go
Well,
back
and
to
I
the way
need
we
to,
go
I
to
also
9?
need to finalize a state report, so this is the one piece that we're lacking, so I can.
Should we
file
try
that
the
report.
9th? Let's open to the 9th, this
The 9th?
Monday.
9 and 16 then?
9th and 16th? Alright, I'll confirm that date by the end of today.
You need a motion on that, or you okay?
No. Well, actually, let me find out what the dates are and then we'll confirm something.
I'll let you know the date. If that's the 16th, then I'm gone, Marty.
Okay, alright.
And that'll bother me.
Okay, keep in mind that, on the 9th, we will have a work session in here. Cause that's our off week for city council, so we'll have a work session.
So the 16th
That's
is
what
the
time?
best.
We usually have our work session typically at 5, so if you do it during the
So
day.
we
you're
can
fine
do
with
it during the day.
Yeah, we could do it
Yeah.
in the morning.
Early.
And
Early.
real quick, are you supposed to be going to that supervisor training on March 9th?
Supervisor for what?
Everyone that's a supervisor at the city is supposed to have an all-day supervisor training on March 9th.
I didn't know that, so if I'm supposed to be there, then I guess somebody should have told me.
Yeah, I'll
Okay.
double check with Donna.
Okay.
But I would imagine, I know that I have to be there
And what time?
all day.
All day.
Yep,
So
starting
the
at
16th of
8:30
March is the
a.m.
one that's,
That's our
the
good spot.
16th of the March is the one that we're looking at, right?
All right. Thank you, Wally. Yeah, it's not on my calendar. Okay.
Yeah, I'll double check with her that you, and I think that you will need to come to it, cause I think you supervise more people than I do. So,
Okay, that's all I had for staff report.
RPM update, anything? Nothing?
She, is it Robert Quinn, or is it Robert?
Simon.
Rob
Rob
Simon,
Simon.
thank you. Rob Simon. Last conversation with Rob was that he had a few more conversations to have before he finalized his report on the bicycle tourism study. So just so you know, the tourism board engaged in a study with RPM. I think we explained it a little bit at their introductory meeting with you. And we're waiting for a report from him as to what he's found out so that we know what next actions will be taking place.
Okay.
So,
And RPM, they're major bicycle event producers, basically. They do the Colorado Classic.
Okay.
so as it sits right now, your next meeting will be next Wednesday, and that's your work session. Just real quick, are there any agenda items that you want on that work session agenda? At this point, we will have a review of financials and then the media plan, right?
Right.
Marty, what have you found out about these iPads? Have you found out anything else?
Actually, somebody approached Audra about replacing those, and she was talking to, no,
IT?
yeah, what's his name?
His name is James.
James?
Oh, is
He's
it
our new-
James?
He's our new IT guy.
Okay, so there's a new IT guy. No, she had talked to the young guy, what was his name?
Hayden.
Hayden,
Yeah.
about replacing those, so
So,
I haven't heard yet.
I know that they just ordered a whole bunch of new iPads
Oh, good.
recently,
Okay,
so
there's
I
your
would
answer.
imagine that these are some of them.
so is that gonna be part of, for the tourism board also?
I'll double check at the next,
Well, we have talked to Audrey about it, so I would imagine she probably included it,
yeah.
hopefully.
Most likely.
Yeah, most likely, yeah.
And then on your March 11th agenda, you will have voting for, board chair and chair, vice chair. So
Right.
keep that in mind for your regular meeting for March 11th. And I always request any agenda items by the week before the meeting,
Okay.
so that I can get it on the agenda and get it posted.
And do we follow an agenda for both the work sessions and
Yes.
the meeting? Okay.
And Marty, on our packets, when are we supposed to have them?
I apologize for, getting those being delayed, the last two. There was some things in the mix there that caused us not to have them in time. But, I will try and have them to you by Thursday,
Okay.
at the latest, by end of day on Thursday.
Hey, guys. Good job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good job, guys, thanks.
Okay. I need a motion to adjourn the meeting. because
I make a
can't-
motion to adjourn today's meeting.
A second.
And we're off.
Campbell,
Aye.
Grass,
Aye.
Latrell,
Aye.
Zeachus.
Aye.
What time are we? 10:40.
Ooh, dug it.